Ramona, what did you see from the Warriors last night?
I saw all the Warriors out there. I mean,
yeah.
I saw the main guys playing and taking this seriously. And I think that's huge for them because when Jimmy Butler was acquired at the trade deadline, they were really good when he was on the court together with Steph Curry. And then he gets hurt, Steph gets hurt, and we didn't really get to see them finish off last season together as a healthy unit. And it's important to me that they are taking the preseason seriously, trying to get minutes on the court together, trying to figure out how they play off of each other. And I mean, the Lakers weren't really playing their two main guys here, and so it's hard to judge their performance. But the Warriors want to come out of the gates fast here, you can tell.
Yeah, and they're deep. I talked about that with Steve Kerr last night. They feel good about their roster right now. Maybe there'll be some stuff, they have to figure out from 9 to 11. But last year they went into the season mark having to figure out like 6 different things. Yeah. But Jonathan Kuminga is one of those things they'll have to figure out a role for. He signs his contract. Stalemate is over.
Yeah.
What do you see from him?
Happiness, joy, peace, which is surprising. I mean, I've been around a while. I remember seeing Iverson being unhappy in Memphis, if you remember that. And
don't go too far. Jimmy Butler. We were just talking about him, right?
Steven Jackson wanting out in Golden State. Kevin Durant not being happy. But I saw Kuminga dancing after the game, and he told me he was at peace. I think the guys, Steph, Draymond, Jimmy, and Buddy Hield played a good role in giving them support, and I think that helped him a lot. He comes from a family from Congo that he said they never were a stressful family. That's not his DNA, and regardless to whether he's at Golden State or somewhere else, he feels like he's going to figure it out. But at Golden State, he's like, I'm committed here. And I want to win a championship here. Yeah. So it didn't sound like somebody who was trying to force his way out.
I'm curious to see, though, if he does the little things. A couple years ago, he was starting to do that. Remember, we had this big to-do about him and Steve.
He did say it was important for him to be very good on both sides of the court.
Yeah, I would agree that definitely is important for them. I mean, this is a guy who's got 30-point potential. Yeah. We saw that in the games that Steph wasn't around after he went down due to injury. But a couple years ago, after the big to-do with him and Steve Kerr, they had this come to Jesus meeting or whatever, and he started doing the little things, and he could fall into 14, 15 points a game, Bobby. So what do you think can carry over with this group here moving forward in the regular season?
Well, I mean, I think when you look at the regular season, and we're going to go over to the touchscreen, if you're Mike Dunleavy Jr., their general manager, you're feeling pretty good this morning as far as where this roster was. And we didn't even see Al Horford last night in that starting role there for them. There was certainly a lot of different matchups. This is their depth when you look at it with Gary Payton the second and Al Horford and Seth Curry and Jonathan Kuminga. Yeah. That's not their starting lineup with Steph Curry and Moses Moody. And here's some of the questions that we went into the offseason with. How can they get some size at 5? We heard Steve Kerr talking about how we're not going to see Draymond Green as much at the 5. Now you add Al Horford to the mix. A mobile rim protector here. Certainly Horford. Front court depth. You sign Jonathan Kuminga in the offseason here. Defensive mind reserve guards. Gary Payton is back. I think the biggest question, can you find that consistent third scorer? That plagued them a little bit during the postseason here. You have Steph Curry. You have Jimmy Butler to this roster. Buddy Hield is back. We brought back DeAnthony Melton, who's going to be out 4 weeks here. But they've addressed a lot of things that we were questioning in the offseason. And you saw, at least in those first 2 quarters last night, this Golden State team with Steph Curry on the court could be dangerous here.
Well, and the Jimmy thing is interesting because it allows them to get set on defense, which is important because he gets to the line. He doesn't turn the ball over. I think all those things are important. Speaking of important, the King has put out something on his social media about the decision of all decisions coming tomorrow at noon Eastern. Ramona, anything to this?
We all obviously saw this and thought, whoa, is he announcing something? And I don't know that we should get all that worked up about it. Just from those first
vibes
call, vibes, text, whatever. It doesn't sound like
it.
Yeah, something like that. It doesn't sound like it's something to get all that worked up about. He did this earlier in the summer and it ended up being an ad, so we'll see what this is tomorrow.
Okay, fair enough.
Whatever.
Not a farewell.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll see what it is tomorrow anyway.
I'm really just showing the team I can be a good rim protector for them, anchoring the defense, and just having a good communicative terminology to my guys, and just being their backbone out there.
How has the assimilation process been for you in just your second preseason game and a little bit of camp with the Lakers?
I mean, it's been fun. Just running out, having a terminology where, JJ's letting us go out there and just play hard. Be physical and just get our tails in shape.
DeAndre, good luck. Thanks for the time.
Thank you so much.
Now, it's interesting, Bobby. You started to address it earlier when we saw the highlights. JJ told us yesterday he wants them to play with force and physicality. That's what they're working on right now, specifically in the preseason. But how did Ayton look like? What did Ayton look like to you?
You saw a little bit of a glimpse last night, and this was out without Luka in the game as far as the ability to roll to the rim. We saw him certainly a couple alley-oops here. I think it's going to be interesting when Luka is out there with him, ability to set him up, pick and roll. But there were glimpses last night as far as how effective DeAndre Ayton could be without a Luka Doncic on the court.
He's one of the best pick and roll guys in the NBA. He's also had some up and downs in his career, as you can attest to. But this is different. This ain't Phoenix. This ain't Portland. This spotlight, I think, is going to bring the best out of him, and it has to bring the best out of him. If he's going to get the easiest shots of his career, he's going to play with two of the best players in the history of the world. They're going to make him better every day. And if he brings that talent that he has, he could be an X factor for something special in LA.
Every interview I've heard him give so far this year has been him embracing his role. Like, he seems to understand that this is what the Lakers need him for, rim protection and being a lob threat. And if he's good with that, if he's bought into that, I think that's exactly what the Lakers are looking for out of DeAndre Ayton. But if he's trying to score more or prove himself that he can be a dominant post or whatever it is, then that's not going to be great.
Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of it is, people have questioned his desire, and we'll see if that comes to fruition here in a positive way for the Lakers. Nikola Jokic took on a familiar foe in Rudy Gobert this weekend. There's the Joker. Things get testy early here, Mark.
Gobert got hit in the face.
That European battle right there, man.
I mean, he caught
But neither one of them
something right to the chin.
Nah, they're good.
Yeah.
They're good. A minute later, though, Joker gets back to doing Joker things as he finds new teammate Cam Johnson for the layup.
What a great pickup.
The backdoor cut, that is good.
Then later in the first, Nuggets, you'll see here, nearly turn it over. Their possession seems to stall out. Check out Anthony Edwards here on the bench letting the Nuggets hear it. But Bruce Brown says, not so fast, my friend. Wide open for this three. Brown gets that one. After the game, he was asked what it was like to hear his name announced for the first time. His response? Go hear it yourself.
I'm going to be honest, I did not hear it. I was too busy talking to Ant. So I was too busy talking stuff to the Timberwolves bench, so I didn't even know what he said. I was out of it.
All right, look who's back in Charlotte. LaMelo Ball on the court for the first time since March. Hornets hosting the Thunder, defending champs. Well, the backups at least are out there at the moment. Brandon Miller gets the steal and the slam on the other end.
I look forward to seeing him back, too.
It's all about availability with these guys.
Second quarter, LaMelo, one-legged three.
There is not a shot out there that he won't take.
Next possession.
And one mixtape.
Here's another one.
And one mixtape.
Step back, one-legged jumper.
How many three-point lines are out there?
Yeah, seriously.
What are we playing on?
High school, college.
And then in the third, Aaron Wiggins takes over here. Three ball is good. Wiggins game high 23. Thunder roll 135 to 114. And it feels like the Hornets will have a lot of headaches this year.
Oh, I see what there.
The Thunder won by 21 despite sitting 10 players, including SGA, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren. Aaron Wiggins, center Jalen Williams, and Isaiah Joe were the only title team rotation members who played. OKC is scary no matter what, obviously, at this point, no matter who's on the floor. So, Mark, let's talk about the West here and who can contend against them. Did the Nuggets do enough to compete with the Thunder?
Yes, they do. They took them to a Game 7 without this team, which is a better team and perhaps even better on paper than the one that won a championship. You got Cam Johnson, Valanciunas, which I think people are sleeping on that pick.
It's a nice backup center for sure.
And also could drop Joker's minutes down a little bit. Tim Hardaway Jr. and Bruce Brown, who I talked to recently in Denver. Super excited to be back and get his cowboy boot game going again. Look, losing Michael Porter Jr. is huge. but they got more depth, more maturity. The younger guys, they're scary. I think they're the biggest threat.
One player who's the X factor, and it's a player that's been there at least through the championship, is Jamal Murray.
Yeah.
When we looked at what happened with Jamal Murray last year, coming off the Olympics, he wasn't healthy to start the regular season here. Now he's healthy, he's in shape. He's your X factor as far as where this Denver team goes. They did a great job this offseason adding the veterans to that young bench here, but Murray is going to be an important piece.
Let me ask you this. Is Murray the new Mike Conley? Right? Where remember for years we'd say like, Mike Conley's the best player to not be an all-star, and Mike Conley is the best point guard we never talk about. Is Jamal Murray that guy now?
He could be. I mean, because it's hard in the West with the guards that are out in the West. Like every year making that all-star team is going to be hard. And I also think Jamal tends to start slow. Like he's a guy that the second half of he'll get criticized in the beginning part of the year, and then he plays his way into shape, and then he's great, and he's really there in the playoffs. But to me, like with Denver, they went a different direction. They obviously traded the big trade we talk about is Michael Porter Jr., but they got older. They got depth. And all last year we were knocking them for playing the young guys, and they don't have enough depth on that bench. There's a lot more depth there, but they also got older. And I think that's the right move because I covered that series with you, Mark. We were at a lot of those games. That was a close series. And if Aaron Gordon didn't get hurt, I don't know who wins that series. Yeah. But they ran out of gas. Like those Denver Nuggets were a championship team that ran out of gas, and they obviously needed to bring in some reinforcements.
We have some unfortunate news in the Western Conference out of Grizzlies camp. Star guard Ja Morant suffered a sprained ankle at a practice on Sunday and is now considered weak to weak. Ja has only played in 59 games over the last 2 seasons with various injuries and suspensions. The two-time All-Star averaged 23 points and 7 assists per game last season for Memphis. Morant is not the only Grizzly out of action at the moment. Jaren Jackson Jr. is recovering from a turf toe surgery that the team announced back in July with a 12-week reevaluation. And Zach Edey is working his way back from ankle surgery. And Brandon Clark as well, also working his way back from arthroscopic.
You knew Al was going to fit. What was it like seeing him out there in a game with this?
Fun. I mean, just to see the size and, you know, the shooting ability, passing ability, just the flow of the game. Yeah, what an addition he is. And as I said before the game, we can play him with anybody. You know, we played him with Quentin Post in the last, I think, 4 minutes of the second quarter. We went on a huge run. So he fits any lineup, makes every lineup better. We're lucky to have him.
Steve, it looked like Al's activity level was off the charts for what you were supposed to expect from a guy of his age. But he came out there and he was just at 3 points, but he was all over the court. Is that just what you've seen in practice and so forth?
Yeah. I mean, it's more a sign of his basketball IQ than it is like him, you know, flying around trying to impress anybody. He's just always in the right spot. You saw those, I think he had a couple block shots, and both of them, he just three. The two that I remember, he just, you know, rotated over perfectly, recognized the late shot clock, knew exactly where he was, what he needed to do. So it's a guy who's been around for a long time and has seen everything, and the game comes very naturally to him.
Steve, John Kuminga had 4 assists, 6 rebounds. Didn't look like he was really trying to score. I was wondering, was that a point of emphasis today?
No.
What did you make of his game overall?
I thought he played well. You know, he obviously missed the first couple of days of practice, so he was a little bit behind on some of the stuff we were doing, but I thought JK played well. Made a couple of great passes in transition. That second and third quarter, the game really flowed for us, and our transition spacing, which we've been working on all week, was great. And so that was the best part of the game, those 2 quarters, and I liked some of the plays that JK made during those stretches.
You went with the smaller lineup to start. You kind of, like you said, switched out in different lineups. Where are you at on, like, I know you're trying to put stuff out. Where are you at on if you want to start big with Al? or potentially go this small?
Yeah, I mean, what I like about the small lineup is it really empowers Moses to be that disruptor defensively, which he was right away. I know he picked up a couple fouls, but he had a couple deflections. You could feel his presence right away, and then he has this great shooting night. So I love starting Moses for that reason. I also love starting Brandon because he connects the game for us. I think he's another plus 16 tonight. That lineup was fantastic for us last year, so we need to play it at some point in the game. It doesn't mean that Draymond's going to be logging heavy minutes at the 5 because we came off the bench with 3 centers tonight. So if we start that way, it still allows Draymond to get off of the big hulking centers as the game goes on. And so I'm confident that we can play that lineup. Whether we start it or not, I don't know, but I'm confident that we need to play it because it was so good last year, and you can see why.
More on Al Horford. We got a glimpse of him with Quentin Post's lineup that you were sort of talking about earlier this week. What did you sort of make of how they played together?
It was fun to watch because, to get 2 really big guys on the floor together, that kind of size and shooting at the same time is a really interesting combination. We played some zone with them. You could see the length out there. We made a great run there at the end of the second quarter. Got 3 or 4 stops in a row off the zone and ran the floor well. And then both guys see the game, good passers. So that was a fun night to watch that combination.
Bring out Jimmy, Draymond, Al Horford. Those would be just incredibly smart, all defense caliber guys all through their career. What is having those 3 guys? Are there any new options that you feel like that unlocks for you defensively?
For sure. I mean, Al, you saw it tonight, the defensive IQ, but also just the size and length. So if we put him with Jimmy and Draymond, which I imagine we will do often this year, I think they'll close a lot of games because of what you're talking about. Obviously Steph, and then we've got plenty of options. BP, Moses, Buddy. A lot of different guys can step in there with those 3. So it's an enticing combination.
You threw a few different zone defense looks out there. I know they're probably related to the lineup combinations, but could you explain like the thought process behind some of those looks?
Yeah, I mean, I think zone can be effective these days. Everybody sort of plays a similar style, gets you in, high pick and roll with floor spacing, and teams develop a rhythm. So I kind of like zone to disrupt team's rhythm. So we played some last year. We played more in the playoffs really than we did in the regular season, but I could see us playing more zone, but we'll have to see how effective it is.
Just what do you think about getting the first look at your spacing? What do you think about the way you guys space?
It was great in transition, and then half court, not great, but we haven't worked on that as much. We've really focused on our transition and our flow these past 5 days. Next week, we've got to start looking at the ISO spacing when Jimmy has the ball. Last year we got really good with that right away, but we haven't emphasized it at all this week. So we need to emphasize it next week, get guys to space so that Jimmy has enough room to go to work and find the open shooter.
Kuminga's comments and Steve Kerr's response hint at ongoing tension. Will he keep fighting for minutes? The standoff between Jonathan Kuminga and the Golden State Warriors quietly lingered throughout the entire offseason. Now, even after the dust has settled, signs of tension remain, and his fight for consistent minutes may be far from over. Kuminga, the former number 7 overall pick, reportedly turned down multiple offers from the Warriors before finally agreeing to a 2-year, $48.5 million contract just ahead of the 2025-26 NBA season. The deal, which includes a team option, a term his camp strongly opposed, raised eyebrows across the league. The fact that the Warriors got that clause in the contract suggests the team held the leverage. And while both sides eventually reached an agreement, it's hard to ignore the friction that simmered behind the scenes, especially when listening to head coach Steve Kerr's carefully chosen words. Steve Kerr's honest take on the Kuminga saga. Kerr, whose influence carries significant weight in Golden State, was at the center of the months-long dispute. Some insiders even criticized his role, suggesting that Kuminga's lack of a clearly defined role under Kerr may have contributed to the standoff in the first place. But when asked directly about how he viewed the contract saga now that it's over, Kerr struck a diplomatic tone. "This is the business we're in. I've never held it against any player for trying to secure the best deal they can," Kerr told The Athletic's Anthony Slater. "As a coach, and as someone who played in this league, part of my job is to help players grow into the best version of themselves. Put them in a position to succeed. Help them sign good contracts. These careers don't last forever." While his words were measured, Kerr's neutral stance is telling, especially considering how much the stalled negotiations limited the Warriors' flexibility this offseason. The team was unable to make other key moves while the Kuminga situation remained unresolved. Kerr added, "We've dealt with much bigger contracts than this. I don't think it's a big deal. These things happen in sports. Contract disagreements are part of the landscape. Still, it's hard to ignore the subtext. This wasn't just a negotiation. It was a statement. And now that it's done, the real question is, where does Kuminga go from here? Kuminga's future, still uncertain? Despite signing the extension, there are still whispers that Kuminga, now 22, may not see his long-term future in Golden State. The inclusion of a team option speaks volumes. The Warriors maintain control over his fate, while he's left needing to prove himself all over again. For Kuminga to shift the narrative, two things need to happen. He must solidify his place in the rotation. Despite flashes of brilliance and elite athleticism, Kuminga has yet to earn consistent, reliable minutes under Kerr. Whether that's due to defensive lapses, inconsistency, or lack of trust from the coaching staff, it remains a barrier. He has to produce, and produce now. With veterans like Stephen Curry and Draymond Green still at the core, the Warriors aren't in rebuilding mode. Every minute matters, and Kuminga needs to show that he can impact winning, not just with highlight plays, but with smart, disciplined basketball. The upside is clear. Kuminga has shown he can guard multiple positions, finish in traffic, and create mismatches. But until he puts it all together, and earns the full confidence of his coach, he'll remain in a precarious position. More than just business. Ultimately, this situation reflects something deeper than contract logistics. It's about identity and direction, both for Kuminga and for a Warriors team that's trying to walk the line between contending now and preparing for the future. Kuminga's talent isn't in question, but his fit in Kerr's system, and the organization's long-term plans, still are. The contract may be signed. The summer may be behind them. But the real story? It's still unfolding, and Kuminga's next steps will determine whether this chapter ends with a breakout or a breakup. Trust still in question? Behind the scenes, league sources suggest that while the Warriors are publicly downplaying the contract dispute, trust between Kuminga and the organization hasn't fully recovered. The tension wasn't just about money, it was about role, usage, and long-term vision. Kuminga's camp reportedly grew frustrated over the lack of a clear developmental plan, particularly during the 2024-25 season, when he was in and out of the rotation despite strong performances in stretches. The inconsistency in his minutes, combined with minimal opportunities in late-game situations, became a point of contention, especially as younger players on other teams were given the freedom to grow through mistakes. The tension wasn't one-sided either. Within the Warriors' coaching staff, there were concerns about Kuminga's defensive discipline, off-ball focus, and ability to stay engaged when he wasn't featured offensively. While his physical tools are undeniable, there's a belief that he hasn't always embraced the nuances of team basketball that Golden State's system demands. These internal questions fed directly into the negotiation standoff, and likely explain why the team insisted on keeping the team option in the contract. The message was clear: we'll commit to you if you fully commit to the system. A critical year ahead. With the 2025-26 season underway, Kuminga is now entering the most pivotal stretch of his young career. If he thrives, both statistically and within the Warriors structure, he could shift the entire narrative, cement his place in the rotation, and potentially become a long-term piece alongside the next generation of Warriors talent. But if the inconsistencies continue, or if his role diminishes again, the contract's team option gives Golden State a way out. And in that case, Kuminga could find himself back on the trade market, possibly packaged in a deal to retool around Curry in what could be the final years of his prime. Internally, some around the league believe that the Warriors' front office may already be preparing for that possibility. While the team has made no public statement suggesting a trade is imminent, rival executives are watching closely. If Kuminga's minutes shrink again or if tensions resurface, expect trade speculation to accelerate, especially if Golden State hovers around the middle of the Western Conference standings. The bigger picture for Golden State. Kuminga's situation also reflects a broader dilemma facing the Warriors, the tension between past, present, and future. With Stephen Curry still playing at an elite level, the front office is under pressure to compete now. But with aging stars and a tightening salary cap, the team must also develop young talent that can take the torch. So far, balancing those two goals has been far from smooth. James Wiseman is already gone. Moses Moody has yet to carve out a consistent role. Kuminga, once considered the highest upside prospect of the group, is now at a crossroads. And how his season unfolds will say a lot about whether the Warriors can truly bridge eras, or whether they'll be forced to pick a direction sooner than expected. For Kuminga, this is more than a contract year. It's a test of maturity, resilience, and fit. For the Warriors, it's a reflection of deeper strategic tension, one they can no longer ignore. And while the headlines may have quieted for now, the questions remain. Can Jonathan Kuminga evolve fast enough to become a cornerstone? Or has the clock already started ticking on his time in Golden State? The answers are coming, on the court, not on paper.